Mr. Majumdar, I'm going to call him Dikuda, which is his nickname, and Da represents older brother. The reason I'm calling him older brother is I knew him when I was 2 years old. So he lived in Sri Lanka when I did also. But I went to Sri Lanka, I went to England when I was 4. So all my memories of playing with him were before I was 4. So that's how long I know him. But I didn't know that he was in this Bay Area until his wife called my daughter to ask her to perform for an Indian presentation, the dance. So they began talking, and then she said, my husband grew up in Sri Lanka too. So I said, wait a minute, what's the last name? And she gave me her last name. And I said, ask her if her husband's name was Dipu. She said, yes. I said, mother-in-law's name is Minu? She said, yes. So that's how we came back in contact in the early 90s. And since then, we've been friends. This time he traveled to Sri Lanka with me, and we both had memories of our childhood. So we enjoyed Sri Lanka together this time. Divoda is an engineer. He worked for Bechtel for 44 years, and then he's been retired for 10 years, and he enjoys reading books and traveling. So he's going to be probably presenting more than this time, several times, because he's traveled to 90 countries, he says. So let me begin now with the sights and sounds of Sri Lanka in January 2025. So I have another travel mate here. Her name is Sonal Dalal. She's sitting over there. And we've done many trips together. Egypt, Sri Lanka, Turkey, Mediterranean, China, several other places. So whenever we have questions towards the end of the presentation, we can direct them to Sonal also. And okay, so let's get started. And that's a topiary bird. She's not a real bird, but that was what we saw in the backyard of our first hotel. So I thought that's pretty stark. So when we reached Sri Lanka, we were greeted with orchid lays. So that's one of the lays. Now, those of you who are unfamiliar with the location of Sri Lanka, there's a map of India there, and right in the bottom right, the small island is Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is not directly connected with India. There's a sort of a bridge that they call Adam's Bridge or Rama's Bridge, and that's linked with an Indian epic called Ramayana. And you see remains of that bridge. That's the satellite image of that Adam's Bridge or Rama's Bridge that you see supposedly could have connected India with Sri Lanka maybe a good 7,000 years ago. Many have probably seen these stick fishermen. They do the fishing in the sea in the southern part of Sri Lanka. But we didn't go to that part of Sri Lanka. So I just thought I'll connect that.
I have traveled all around the world, crossed oceans deep and wide. Wherever I may be, Sri Lanka's on my mind. The rivers and the mountains and the folks' pretty smiles. Though I may be a rover, my heart I leave behind. I'm going home, I'm going home, going home to Sri Lanka, the land I love. Give me the sunshine, give me the rain, the land of wonders, my land of dreams. I've been to many cities, to Paris and to Rome. Nothing can compare to this land they call their own. The Lankan girls are pretty, I'm sure you will agree. If you don't believe me, mate, just come along with me. I'm going home, I'm going home, to Sri Lanka, the land I love. Give me the sunshine, give me the rain, the land of wonders, my land of dreams. Some people think I'm crazy when I'm walking down the street. I say, "G'day, how you going?" to everyone I meet. So give me a toddy and a mat by the sea. I'm proud to love Sri Lanka, the land of all my dreams. I'm going home, I'm going home, to Sri Lanka, the land I love. Give me the sunshine, give me the rain, the land of wonders, my land of dreams. I'm going home, I'm going home, to Sri Lanka, the land I love. Give me the sunshine, give me the rain, the land of wonders, the land of dreams.
These three gentlemen came to greet us in the airport as soon as we reached Sri Lanka. And the one in the middle is Sampath, who was our guide throughout our trip. And behind him is Charita, his assistant, or the driver's assistant. And right in the front is our driver, Giant. So he drove us throughout Sri Lanka all by himself. And the trip that we took was customized by me. I used Walker's Tours for the customization. The trip was 17 days, 17 nights, and it included all 3 meals. We only stayed in 4 to 5-star hotels, and all the tickets to attractions were included. So we had no hassles at all. Now, in the beginning, they were going to put us in a minivan. And I told them that, yeah, we may be only 5 people, but we have luggage. And so will our guide, the driver, and the assistant. So you can't pack us up like sardines in minivans. Give us a bigger vehicle. So I agreed to that. We each paid $90 extra for 17 days of traveling. And we traveled in that mini coach, which is a lot more comfortable than the minivan would have been. Now, this is what we saw when we first reached our hotel, and my friend Sonal decided to take a video.
This is our hotel in Columbo. It's Cinnamon Lake. Look at all the Christmas decoration.
Now, this is the back swimming pool area. of the hotel. And in the background, you see the Lotus Tower, which we would later climb as we stay a few more days in Colombo. And this is our travel group. Some of you may know Dawn Augustine. She's standing right next to me. Sonal is next to her, and Sonal is here also. And then Dipuda is there. In the middle, between Sonal and Dipuda, was our tour customizer, Purnima Ranasinghe. She's the one who listened to all my requests and demands and took care of us for the entire trip planning. Sri Lanka has 8 World Heritage Sites, and we're going to most of them. We're going to the city of Anuradhapura, city of Polonnaruwa, city of Sigiriya, sacred city of Kandy, where I grew up, Dambulla Caves, and then the central highlands of Sri Lanka. We are not going to be going to Sinharaja Forest Reserve. We're replacing it with a safari in Vilpattu National Park. And instead of the old town of Gaul, which is down in the south, we're going to be going into Jaffna to see a fort over there. Jaffna is the northernmost part of Sri Lanka. So basically, this trip covered the central highlands of Sri Lanka and the northern part of Sri Lanka. Now I hand the mic over to Deepuda.
So the land area is about 26,000 square miles, which is about a sixth of California, the size of Alabama, half the size of Alabama, 1/6 the size of California. It's not a very big island. It's about 270 miles north-south, 150 miles at its widest point. Population 22 million. The highest mountain is Pedro de la Vela, Point Pedro, 8,330 feet. Population 22 million. Colombo has about 0.8 million, but Greater Colombo has about 2 to 3 million. The ethnic groups, Sinhalese are 75%, and then we have Tamil. The Tamils are separated into 2 groups. Sri Lankan Tamils, who had come over from India in the ancient past and also up to about before the British got here. And then there was 7% of the Tamils who were brought over by the British to work on the plantations. So that was another, what percentage? So 4% plus 11%, or 15% Tamil population. Tamil is a language and a state, Tamil Nadu in India. So they've come from India. And the Moors, these are the populations that were brought over by the colonial, the British, the Portuguese, and the Dutch, who intermarried, and they're given a general term, Moors, sometimes called burghers. That's the 9%. Religion, Buddhist 70%, and then there are other Hindu, Muslim, and Roman Catholic. Languages, Sinhalese 87%, Tamil 30%. It adds to more than 100, but that's because some people speak both languages, Sinhalese and Tamil. The main occupation is agriculture. Ceylon is Sri Lanka. Ceylon is the old name that the British had given it, Sri Lanka now. So they're famous for their minerals, mainly sapphires, and of course tourism is a big player now in the current economy. Temperature-wise, it's pretty hot, 33 degrees centigrade, which is close to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And in the mountains, it gets down to 20 degrees centigrade. But generally, most of Sri Lanka the temperatures are pretty high. The rainfall, if you go back to the previous slide, if there's a map. Anyway, the rainfall comes from the northeast side. The rain over the Arabian Sea, the Sea of Bengal, as it's called, and brings in rain to this part. And the central highlands are over here. The rest of it is all plains. So the most of the rain comes from the southwest monsoons that comes in here, and the rainfall can be as much as 100 inches in some of the central island areas, and rest of the areas between 60 to 100 inches. The rainfall here is about 40 to 60 inches, and this is called the dry zone area. A very short history. Uh, Ancient history, not going back to, there are a lot of excavation going on, um, but it's mostly in the mythological readings that you can get about the indigenous people, the Vedas, the Rakshasas, who were supposedly monsters, shape-changing monsters, lived in the jungle. You have the Yakshas, who were spirit creatures. So this is all part of mythology. And the Nagas, who are the snake-worshipping people. But recorded history, as written in the chronicles, the religious chronicles of the Buddhists in about 4th century AD, talks about the Sinhala kingdom as that's where the Sri Lanka Sinhalese came from. As you said, that about 80% are Sinhalese. And they came from North India, Prince Vijaya. And he was expelled from North India, and he and his 700 of his followers came into Sri Lanka, and that thus started the Sinhala kingdom. So basically the origins are Indo-Aryan, which is from North India. The Anuradha period is the first established kingdom, and this was about almost 1500 years. And that's when Buddhism came to Sri Lanka in about 300 BC, the time of Emperor Ashoka of India, who sent his son Mahinda and his daughter Sanghamita as monks to Sri Lanka. And that's where Buddhism started around about 300 BC. So this was continuous. Anuradhapura had a continuous kingdom, and they moved their capital at times to Polonnaruwa because there were a lot of invasions from South India, South Indian empires who came in to plunder, and so they had to move their capital over to Polonnaruwa. Then there was a transition period. A little story here when in about 4th century AD, the canine tooth of the Buddha was brought over to Kandy, and the center of India, to Anuradhapura actually. And this happened around about 4th century AD. And that's kept in the Tooth Temple, which Srila will cover in a few slides. But basically, the keeper of the tooth was accepted as the king of the whole country. So they protected that tooth from invaders from India and from the Portuguese, the Dutch, and the British. So that's the transition period. They kept moving the capital around to the southern parts of Sri Lanka. And then finally, they established their kingdom in Kandy, in the central highlands, away from Columbo, because that's where the colonial people were, in the plains, mainly, and the highlands were not accessible. So the Kenyan period until the British finally took over, and it became a former British Empire. So you can see the Portuguese were there for about 180 years, then followed by the Dutch, who ousted the Portuguese, and then the British came over and then ousted the Dutch. And they were there until independence in 1948. And that's when the independence period started. And Sri Lanka has, after independence, experienced a lot of civil wars, a lot of unrest, mainly in the 60s and 70s because of communists. And then there was the civil war in the northern part of India where the Tamils were, and they felt they were being discriminated against. And the Tamil Elam movement started, which is to have an independent Tamil. And the civil war continued started in 1983 to 2009, when there was peace. Even as late as 2019, there were 150 people who were killed in some bombings. It's called the Easter bombings. So there is violence in Sri Lanka even now, but it's coming down under control. Basically, it's a modern city. This is from our hotel looking towards the Indian Ocean, which is looking westwards. So you can see there are a lot of skyscrapers, but it's also a very old city because when the Arabian traders came over traveled from west to the east, Colombo was a very important port. So it's been there for a long time. And this is again, the skyline facing west towards the Indian Ocean. And here's a view of the Lotus Tower, which has become an icon of Sri Lanka. And this is the famous Golf Face Hotel. This strip, called the Golf Face Green, has historic significance. Memories of this place. Oh, yeah, English. Yeah. The Golf Face Green, a lot of memories of this place. The ITC Hotel, the Shangri-La Hotel behind it. And then at the other end of the Golf Face Green is the Grand Golf Face Hotel, historic hotel. So this is where a lot of people come in the evening to enjoy the breeze, and it's also a place where they have demonstrations and parades. And the British actually started this with a race course, and then it's shrunk since then. So, but it's a center of activity. So this is inside the Golf Face Hotel, which is facing the Golf Face Green. It's a lot of dignitaries have stayed in this hotel. As you can see, presidents, popes, the British royalty. Arthur Clarke, I don't know if you've heard of him, he's a very famous writer, writes about science in the future. And he lived in Sri Lanka for maybe 40 years or so. And he probably died there. Go ahead. So these are the two iconic hotels that we went to. This is the second iconic hotel, Mount Lavinia. So this is the second iconic hotel before our tour formally started. And it's south of Colombo, in the southern part of Colombo, Mount Lavinia Hotel. It was actually the governor's house or abode. Sir Thomas Maitland was the second British governor. Interesting story there. He fell in love with Lovina Apansua, was a local mestizo dancer, and that was looked down upon. She came from a lower caste. They had to keep this secret, clandestine. They met each other secretly, and Maitland during construction of his mansion, he had a secret tunnel built between the wine cellar and her house. And yeah, so this was the entrance to his passageway, secret passageway from his wine cellar that went to Lovina's house. And so there's a statue of Lovina now, they call Mount Lavinia, is named after her. It's called Lovina. And basically, here's the beach. The beaches in Sri Lanka are very beautiful. And they're all around the coast. But this particular strip is pretty famous in Colombo. Okay, next. The Chinese have dredged about 2 square miles of land right next to the business area of Sri Lanka. And the idea is that there will be future development with if they can attract private capital, to the order of $15 billion. So in the future, you might see a lot of skyscrapers coming up in this area. It's an ambitious project. And only $500 million has been spent for the dredging contract. And we don't know what's going to happen in the future. It depends on the business climate and how long this is going to take. But that's in Colombo Port City. As you can see, it's all dredged land waiting to be developed. Next. So the Chinese have been investing quite a bit. I won't go into details, but in the past they have spent a lot of money in monuments and subsidized housing, the various, there's an arts theater. The port city is the biggest investment in Colombo. But it's outside Colombo, in the south part of Sri Lanka, they built the sport. Hamantota was the local, the village of the Rajapaksa family, who were in power from 2005 until, you might have heard, Rajapaksa, Mahinda Rajapaksa, he was voted, there are 2 5-year terms. Sri Lanka, after 1975, they adopted the French form of government rather than the British. With the French form of government, the president has power and is directly elected by the people. Then the prime minister becomes the leading party that wins the election. He's appointed as the prime minister. But the president has the power, is the chief of the army commander, and he can sack the prime minister when he feels that things out of control or whatever. So Mahinda Rajapaksa was elected twice. It's 5-year terms. 2015, he was credited with ending the civil war, and his defense secretary was his brother. So they became famous for that. In 2015, Mahinda Rajapaksa changed the constitution so that he could be elected a third time, which was not allowed in the constitution. But he got defeated in the election anyway. In 2020, his brother Gotapaksha came on board. He became president, and right away he nominated his brother Mahinda Rajapaksa to be the prime minister. So there's been a series of corruption. About 60% of the government economy was driven by the Rajapaksa family, Mahinda Rajapaksa's sons, cousins, daughters. They had all the choice jobs, all the ambassadorships, and all kinds of corruption, which basically drove Sri Lanka to declare bankruptcy in 2022, which you might have heard of. Anyway, the sport that they built in South is still not being used for 1.1 billion, an oil refinery, Central Expressway, and this Rajapaksa airport is called the loneliest airport in the world. No planes land there. So in order to get that to happen, he appointed another cousin of his to be the chairman of Sri Lanka Airways, to force him to redirect planes, but it didn't happen. Nobody wants to go there. It's at the southern end of Sri Lanka. Columbo is where everything happens. So that's a little bit of the Chinese investments in Sri Lanka. You want to pick this up? I'll go ahead. So the Lotus Tower is now an iconic development in Sri Lanka. So show you a little bit about Colombo and Sri Lanka. So it was opened recently, 2019, by the next president who followed the Rajapaksa family. So it's about 1,150 feet high. It's the 19th tallest tower. It's one of the tallest towers in Asia. And it's got telecommunications tower, it's got restaurants. And the petals of the Lotus Tower, they have, the petals represent lotus petals. The colors are changed and with LED lighting. So it's an iconic tower which is visible from a long distance in Colombo. And as you can see, compared to the other famous towers, it's up there, but not as tall as the Shanghai and the Beijing towers. Next. So these are some sites in Colombo. You can see iconic Greek style, Roman style architecture, classical architecture, neoclassical styles, as well as you have mosques. This particular mosque, Red Mosque, we couldn't visit it, but it's a very pretty and one of the famous tourist attractions. Colonial buildings built by the Portuguese, the British, the Dutch, and this particular tower it signifies the center of Colombo, from where all distances are measured. And then lots of parks in Colombo, and in the parks you have all these Buddhist statues and other monuments. Next. So this is the national monument of Sri Lanka. This is the Bandaranaike Memorial contributed by the Chinese. In 1959, Bandaranaike was assassinated. He was the prime minister at that time. Prime minister was the most important person. He was assassinated, and you might have heard of his wife, uh, Mrs. Bandaranaike. What's her first name? Sri Mao Bandaranaike became the first prime minister in the democratic world. And this was another, the theater also built by the Chinese. So many such monuments which we did show you here. Anyway, this particular area is the old Colombo historic neighborhood. So it's a commercial area. It developed around Colombo port. And all the wholesale retail shops, if you want to buy anything, this is where you would come to get spare parts for your video recorder that's not working, anything like that. So wide variety of goods. And then this neighborhood has the market that's famous for. It's a multi-ethnic area. The Moors, the Boras, the Memon, these are all Muslim groups, and they are found in the Spita area, in addition to the Sinhalese and Tamil populations. Here's the one of the Hindu temples that we visited. You can see how large this temple is, and this temple was built of natural stone brought in from South India. Everything is imported from India and dedicated to Lord Shiva. So it's a blend of South Indian and Sri Lanka styles, and it was built in 1857 by this particular person. Next. We went to another temple, which was a Buddhist temple, and the name is not here. No, the name's above, I think. Or you'll get it in the next slide. But anyway, it had the Buddhist stupas, pagodas, dagogas. This is a feature of a Buddhist temple. It also had Chinese guides, and then you have the Buddhist statues inside. So this was started in 1885, and it's been built up since then. So some pictures from inside this particular Buddhist temple. One of the most important is this particular tree, which we'll talk about later on. But this is the po tree, and it's a sapling from the original tree under which Buddha sat in India and achieved nirvana or enlightenment. So that was the Sima Malika Buddhist temple, it's called. It's located on a lake, and right across that is an important building. It was designed by Geoffrey Bawa, who is, he died in the 1930s or 40s. He's their most famous architect. And so basically it's another temple where monks were initiated. So these are various pelicans and birds we found in that lake, Lake Vera. Lake Vera, by the way, that's the main lake inside Colombo, but it's highly polluted. And there's an effort by Colombo, by the Sri Lanka government to clean it up and develop that area.
This is one of the newest hotels that have been built in Sri Lanka. And it's owned by the same tour company that we use for customizing this trip. Now, on the left side, you can see a picture of the designer or the builder with Queen Elizabeth. The name of the designer is Cecil Bauman, and he happened to be a childhood friend of mine too. We grew up on the Peradeniya campus together. His father was a registrar, and my father was a professor. So we used to interact quite a bit as children. He's now known for having made the Sydney Opera House a reality. It was an architect's conception that won the competition for the design of the Opera House. But Cecil made it a reality using his mathematical knowledge. Since then, Cecil is known as Britain's engineer magician, and he's been recognized over there by Queen Elizabeth. So these are some of the things that we saw in the hotel, and that's how the hotel looks from outside. It has been renamed the City of Dreams because not only is it a hotel, they also have apartments for sale in that hotel. They have also a mall in there, and it's an integrated development where you can do a lot of different things, including enjoying beautiful restaurants and sights and get good views of Colombo. I think when I showed you the video from the golf greens, this hotel was one of them that you saw. It's still not fully completed, but it's under construction. We did have lunch there, and it was a beautiful restaurant there. That red decoration that they have there is a hand-drawn rickshaw. When I was small, I used to ride one of those to go to school, to nursery school. It used to get drawn by a man whose name I remember as Duku. I was less than 4 years old then. And people you want to point out, these are some of the inside pictures inside the hotel. There's a bakery there, and this is a view of the golf greens that we saw the night before. Sampling
This is
of the
the-
food we enjoyed during the trip.
Oh, there's some macaroons, marshmallows, wonderful. There's also ice cream. There's some sort of pudding. Is it banana pudding? Okay.
So throughout the trip, we were enjoying a lot of food, different varieties of Indian, European, all kinds of food.
There's also papadum, lime pickle, mango chutney. Oh, there's the macaroons, marshmallows, prawn crackers. Wonderful. There's also on Friday. Indian dishes. Pudding, is it banana paste? Up here we had chana dal, coriander chutney, masala fried garlic naan, biryani, and the food continues on and on.
Now, from Colombo, we went to the Central Highlands, and this is what we were viewing when we were on our way to Nuera Elia. That's the beautiful scenery we were enjoying on the way. Now, we did visit a tea factory. Sri Lanka is known for its tea, Ceylon tea, and the factory that we visited was called the Dumuru Tea Factory. They took us through their manufacturing process, how they process the tea leaves after they were picked. And then in the end, we did see this whole variety of different teas that they offer. We were lucky enough to be able to taste some of the tea. And then we headed on onto Norelia. This was the waterfalls that we saw along the way, the Ramoda Falls. And we had lunch in a restaurant right by the falls. And this was the view that we enjoyed. We stayed in a different hotel this time than we had before. And we were looking from our balcony, and this is what we saw. These most likely are the dwellings of the people who worked in the factory or worked in the hotel. And in general, a lot of the jobs in Sri Lanka, they do provide the employees with housing. Just outside Morelia, which is known as Little London, is a temple called Sita Elia. Now there's a legend that's connected with this temple, and that's the Ramayana, which we had mentioned before when we talked about the connection between India and Sri Lanka and Adam's Bridge. The story is that the demon king of Sri Lanka, Ravana, kidnapped Rama's wife. Rama was supposed to be the king, but he was in exile in a forest. At that time, Ravana sent one of his people to come and kidnap Sri Lanka because they had not been too nice to his sister, Supunaka. And there was a war when they came to get Sita back. Sita is Rama's wife. And at that time, Rama and Lakshman, his brother, who accompanied Rama, got injured. And so, according to a sage, they had to go get some kind of medicinal plant from India, from the Himalayas. And the monkey king who was helping them couldn't figure out what tree it was. So he carried the whole mountain and he landed over here and left a big imprint. And this is right behind this temple. So this commemorates the time that Sita lived in Sri Lanka and the Hanuman and Monkey King came and helped them out. Now we did have dinner in an old hotel built by the British. It was the Grand Hotel. At my previous trips, I had lived there, but this time I wanted a different hotel, so we went to a newer hotel where we stayed. But we did come to this Grand Hotel for dinner. And usually in the evenings, they have a lot of entertainment, musical entertainment, but this time we didn't. We enjoyed a meal instead. So the picture on the left is of that hotel, the outside of the hotel. And near the hotel in downtown New Delhi is a British style post office with a British style mailbox. Close to New Delhi is another little city called Ella that is famous for its 9-arch bridge. This bridge was constructed in 1999 to accommodate the 9-degree curve and the steep gradient. And would you believe it, there was no iron used. This is just bricks that were used to build this temple. And you see a train going over. From Nordalia, we went to Kandy or Peradeniya, the place where I grew up. We enjoyed a beautiful train ride in a good, comfortable coach in the train. And we saw beautiful scenery as we went along. Now, once we reached Peradeniya, so we had lunch by the river Mahaveli Gaga, which is the largest river in Sri Lanka. So this is the view from the restaurant of that river. Now, let me tell you about my house. This house that I lived in for the first few years of my life was on the university campus of Peradeniya where my father taught. This house had 36 windows, and you already see several of them. This is the living room, and here was the dining room. And then along the side, there were more, all around there were windows. All of them were glass windows with no bars. So it was a pretty safe place to live in. The front yard, when my mom took care of it, had fragrant flowers, as many as different flowers you can remember that are fragrant. Gardenias, tuberoses, jasmines, and all of that were there. But the current resident hasn't gotten that much of fragrant flowers there, I see. And along the side also, we used to have a lot of plants. My mom's backyard had a lot of fruit and tropical vegetables. So we had bananas and jackfruit, papayas, passion fruit, two kinds of moringa plants, beans, tomatoes, and all of that. So this is the house that I grew up in. And now on the campus, it was a residential campus, so all the students lived there, and you see a sampling of the accommodations that the students enjoyed. This was the cinema or the movie theater that we enjoyed. And here's a sculpture that was at the entrance of one of the lecture halls. And my dad used to teach in this lecture hall. And all around behind there, there's more lecture halls. A little bit of history there. On the left side, you see an open air theater. My mom and this gentleman, this place is named after Dr. Edirivira Sarachandra. My mom and him used to collaborate, and mom used to sing on the radio in Sri Lanka. And along with him was another gentleman called Mr. Amarudeva. Mr. Dr. Sarachandra, I used to call him uncle. He became Sri Lanka's famous playwright, and the play that he got famous for was first shown in this open air theater. The actors were down here and we sat around it. It was called Madame, and the other gentleman who sang with mom became famous as a famous Sri Lankan composer. So this theater has a lot of history. Right next to it is one of the ladies' domes. There were 8 buildings like this over there. And there were several other domes. I'm only showing you 2 here. Now, Sri Lanka, right at the end of the campus, has a famous Royal Botanical Gardens. This was first planned by the King Vikramabahu in 1371. And then later it was designed further by Alexander Moon in 1821. And that's what we went to see. We had to have a quick view of it, and we used a scooter, a tram, and we all went through it really fast because we had lots of things to do. So this particular gardens is famous because a lot of dignitaries who visit Sri Lanka come and plant trees there. Even Queen Elizabeth planted a tree there. Now you see Sonal and me in the corner over here. This is a colia pathway lining. This has been there for the last 50, 60, or 70 years, and it has never changed. It always looks like this over the years. In the gardens is a bridge, and we could only cross 6 people at a time on this bridge. It was a rickety hanging bridge, but it was built in 1931 and spans 127 meters across the river. This is another famous part of the gardens. The palm trees, the palm avenue grow there. By the way, the movie Bridge on the River Kauai was filmed in this botanical gardens. One of the things I wanted to show you was the orchid house. And it's a big orchid house. You see a variety of orchids. Some of them are endemic to Sri Lanka. Over here is a tree that has fruit or plant, I guess it's a kind of fruit or whatever, that grows that looks like cannonballs. So it's called cannonball trees. And over here is another tree with a weird root. It looked like pineapples, but I couldn't find out the name of that tree. These are the variety of birds. A great number of them are found in the gardens. And we'll talk about birds later on. Sri Lanka, as Deepuda said, was famous for the gemstones. So we went into a place where we could buy some. Dawn and I bought some jewelry from there, precious stones from Sri Lanka, and they use the open pit method for getting to the gems. This is one of the souvenir places that we enjoy. Now, watching elephants bathe is a very popular tourist attraction. So I managed to take my friends to that area where they bathe elephants. This is again in the river Mahadali that we saw several times already. That's the largest river in Sri Lanka. Now, we know that Sri Lanka has a large Buddhist population. This temple is called the Dalada Maligawa, or the Temple of the Tooth, where the canine tooth of the Lord Buddha is housed. It's known as a sacred temple, and it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The current temple was built in 1730 AD, and this is the entrance to the temple. Very beautiful. We went in time for the evening closing ceremony, and here's a sample of the closing ceremony. Upstairs, from that area is where they house the relic of the tooth relic of the tooth of Buddha. And you don't always get to see it, but over here is where it's kept. The temple is also like a museum, so we could view a few other things inside the temple. Okay, we'll just go ahead with it. Now, we did see a cultural show, and so I'll show you some snippets from that cultural show. Mainly, these are the dances from the city of Kandy, which was at one time the capital of Sri Lanka. This is the opening ceremony. They're wearing the typical Kenyan outfits. There's a ceremonial drum. And the ladies came in. This is a prayer dance, puja. Natuma means dance in Sri Lankan language, in Sinhalese. Laban dance. Laban are these things. Also Laban dancers. These are little junior dancers, meaning that they haven't gone through the years of vigorous training that you need to become a full-fledged Canadian dancer. The next dance is called Kulu. Kulu Natua, which is a harvest dance. Kulu are these things that they have in their hands. It's a dance representing the winnowing of rice. They're separating the husks from the rice. Now here's more Canadian dancers. They're not as advanced as the full-fledged Canadian dancers, but they have some interesting things to show us. The Pantalo Natua. The Pantalo is a tambourine-like instrument that they have in their hands. Some amount of gymnastics in that form of dance. I want you to watch how many circles this guy does. Now this is a dance of the Yakar or the Timan. They're dressed to look like demons. fire dance. They dancing with fire. Show you the next one. He's spinning with fire in his hand. Well, he didn't get to work before this. And here come the full-fledged Kenyan dancers. They have this mid-gear and their ornaments. They have 64 ornaments that complete their outfit. It takes many years of training. They call them blessed dancers. The most interesting part is the fire walking on the fire dams in that concert show. And here are some snippets from that. They actually heard it work, walking on a live fire. And we're doing some other things to demonstrate that they don't catch fire. Walking on fire, barefoot, no shoes. That's what I want to do in Boarding Fire. Okay, now we're in the city of Kandy. We saw the Temple of the Tooth in Kandy. There's a big man-made lake here in the middle of the city. And the Temple of the Tooth that you saw is located about there. This is an aerial view. Here you see a newlywed couple come to take their pictures by the lake. That's how the groom dresses up. I heard it takes about 12 yards of material and takes about an hour to drape him. I wanted you to enjoy a little bit of the Sri Lankan Portuguese influenced music called Baila. So I requested our guide to arrange for that, and they came and performed for us at dinner. This song is called Surangani. Surangani is a name of a lady, and they sing the song to her, saying Surangani the Manu Genawa, that we have brought fresh fish for Surangani to enjoy. Suranganita Manu Ginawa. That's it, Sinhalese. So this is Portuguese influenced Banda music. They sang a few more songs, but I'm going to continue. This is the candy market. This was built around the time when we lived there. It opened brand new. My grandfather used to live with us for a few years in the same house you saw. And he used to walk 7 miles every morning to come and pick fresh vegetables and fruit and fish and whatever he wanted to eat that day. And my mom used to come and pick him up when she dropped me to school. So these are some of the fresh fruit that we enjoyed while we were there. And of course, this side you see the fresh fish. That was my school, and I didn't go into it to see it because we didn't have that much time. But the school goes up on the hill, and if you like, I have some albums where you can see the rest of the school. There's a convent there with Irish nuns. My brother went to this college, Kingswood College. He was 8 years old when we left Sri Lanka, but it was a huge, big college. That's his college. Okay, now I'm going to give the Buddha.
We visited this last surviving indigenous people called the Vedas. They're still hunter-gatherers, and they lived a very primitive lifestyle. So it was deep in the forest, it was raining, so we didn't spend too much time there. Yeah, so they were ancestor worshippers. Some of their buildings were built on stilts to keep them safe from animals and elephants. So we had a very short trip there. They showed us some of their fire making skills, their bow and arrow techniques, things like that.
Can I say something about the Vedas? They have their special martial arts called the Angampura. And last time when we went to Sri Lanka, I arranged for them to come and perform in the hotel where we lived. They closed down one part of the hotel and created an environment where we enjoyed their martial arts. But this time I thought if we went into the jungle, we're going to see them do that, but they didn't show us any of their martial arts. So all we saw was a few things that they kind of created for us, and we saw their buildings.
So this is one of the first temples, the Mahayana Raj Mahavihara. Actually, according to the Buddhist stories, or their, I mentioned the Mahavansa, which is the Buddhist chronicles maintained in their by the religious text. Buddha visited Sri Lanka 3 times, and there are 18 sites that have been designated as holy sacred sites visited by the Buddha. This was the first one that he visited, and out there they have a temple, and so this designates the first visit. Go ahead, be short. The Dambulla Rock Temple Complex, the UNESCO World Heritage Site, many years ago, like about 280, I would say. But previous to that, these caves were used as monasteries, and but then the king discovered this, and he was fleeing from his enemies, so he occupied these caves, and from that time onwards, these caves have been maintained by the other kings from Polonnaruwa, from Anuradha, from Kandy, and they've been renovated many times. But let you just look at the slides as to how beautiful they are. So there are about 1,500 Buddhist statues, very beautiful, these caves. You can see every square inch of it is painted. The top of the roof looks like a tent. And so it's a very beautiful site. The other UNESCO site we visited was Sigiriya. And this also has an interesting story with it. It's about 180 meters from the ground to the top of that hill, mountain. And the story goes that there was a king, Datusena. He was a great king. He built a lot of irrigation projects, unified the country. He had 2 sons, and one was Kashyap, who was from the son of a consort, so could not qualify as an heir to his throne. The other one was his son from his queen Mughallana. Well, Kashyap got poisoned by his minister to say that you'll be kept out of the throne unless you get rid of your father, Datusena. And as a result, he imprisoned Datusena and then tortured him to show him the rest of his treasures. And Datusena then took him to one of the irrigation ponds that he'd built, and this is my treasure. That as a result, he was killed. And Kashyap then, his brother, fled to India and marshaled an army from with the help of the Chola empires over there. And then since Kashyap was afraid of this happening, he came over to Sigiriya and built a palace on top of that mountain. And you can see that palace, the remnants of that palace, about 500 feet above the ground level. Only the remains of the palace and of the ponds and some of the gardens remain. But the paintings are world famous. And to get to these paintings, you have to go up the staircase. So anyway, so these are very famous frescoes that you can see in Sigiriya. Go ahead. The gardens of Sigiriya, I think we missed that. But the gardens at the base of Sigiriya are also very famous. We saw the gardens, okay. So the next stop was at Polonnaruwa, which was where the kings from Anuradhapura, when they were chased out by the invasions from South India, they went over to Polonnaruwa, and these are some remains of the Buddha, the palaces, the monasteries, and others. And also this one here, this is the one that there's a moonstone that at the entrance to the stairs that's pretty famous. And these are the shrines that they built to house the temple. This was before the Candy temple that we saw. And these are the remnants of the shrine to hold the tooth, Buddha's tooth. Next. So this one is the Watadaga, it's called the Tooth Relic Temple, was kept in this particular facility. And you can see there's still some remnants of statues that are still being worshipped. And the stupa was one of the ones that was built at that time. This is about the only stupa built. Most of the stupas are built in Anuradhapura. Right next to it, these are some of the buildings. This is a 7-storied tower. Here is the stone temples. And these are some of the most famous statues in Sri Lanka. And so this is all in that Polonnaruwa. Go ahead. For 200 years, Polonnaruwa was the capital.
Okay.
From here, green
Yeah.
beans,
Okay.
ash plant or ash banana, curve beans there, and banana flowers, a curry, and ladyfinger, lentils or dal, pumpkin, mango curry, brinjal, and salad. Onion, carrots, and cucumber included to the salad. Papadang and the yellow rice. They are turmeric to get the color, not the artificial color. And manioc and coconut scraps.
Okay, great.
This is where we had lunch on the roadside at somebody's house. It was a mud house, but it was an interesting place to visit, a local village house.
So some of the land farmers, they built these rural restaurants for tourists. Yeah, next. We stopped to see this Buddha, the biggest Buddha in Sri Lanka, built in the 5th century AD. And it's built so perfectly that they say that a drop of rainwater that falls up the nose would fall in between the big toes of the Buddha. Here there was a monastery there was a school, Buddhist school, and these are the children in their traditional costumes who were attending that school. And
The outfit is called Lama Sari.
Lama Sari, yeah. Next. So then we took on a long drive to Jaffna at the north end of Sri Lanka Peninsula. We didn't see too many monuments to the Civil War. Here's one of them that is a tank that one of the martyrs of Sri Lanka, Sinhalese, drove into the LTT of the army that was fighting for the Tamils. So in Jaffna city, there was a Mahatma Gandhi statue that's revered in Sri Lanka. And in Jaffna, there were a lot of these buildings. This is the city hall. There's a public library. Sorry, this is the library. That's the city hall. What happened in Jaffna was Jaffna came under the Tamil rulers from about 1500 to until the British took over in 1800, 1815. And there was a lot of development, education, and the British colonials, they depended on the Tamils for their administrative positions, etc. So Jaffna developed quite a bit, and there was a lot of these that were destroyed actually during the Civil War. Nearby island is called the Nagadipa Island. The Nagadipa means the island of the snakes. This was dominated by the Naga people before Buddhist times. And we had to take a ferry boat to go to that island. And one of the old mother temples, which was visited by Buddha on this island, we went and visited one of these, the main temple there. And you can see Buddha, and there were two chieftains, Naga chieftains, who were fighting, and Buddha made peace. They were fighting over a throne, and the throne was enshrined. These Buddhist stupas actually house relics of the Buddha. So in this case, that throne was the relic. And then another temple in that area in Jaffna. This was on the Nagadipa island. This was on the main island itself. These are Hindu temples built by the Tamil people. And this dates back to about 948 AD, but has been renovated since then. An additional Jaffna Peninsula architecture, that sculpture at the hotel we stayed in. This is the fort built by the Portuguese and then expanded by the Dutch. This is a cultural center and the town hall. This is a ceremony we saw on the day that we were leaving. It's called the Thai-Pongal. It's in South India as well as among the Tamil population in Sri Lanka. Basically, they boil rice milk. You're supposed to watch it being boiled. And then they have these painting powdered with color powder. And this is in front of all the businesses on that particular day. And it's auspicious for the business. This is Anuradhapura. I won't go into details in this, but there were about 14 of these stupas, which have been, some of them are from ancient times. Some of them have been renovated by the Kandyan kings and later on by the British and Sri Lanka. So this one, for example, was at one time the Chetavan stupa, was the world's tallest stupa, and at one time was the third tallest structure in the ancient world, the top two being the two pyramids in Egypt. And so this was another huge structure. And so again, the remnants of the monastery built around the stupa or pagoda, as it's known there. So this is all part of Anuradhapura. It's a sacred city because Buddha visited it, and there are about 10 sites in Anuradhapura which have remained relics of the Buddha or memories of his visit. And this is the original tree that was brought over by Mahinda in 300 BC from India and planted here in Sri Lanka. In fact, the original tree, which is at Gaya in India, caught a disease and actually got destroyed. So they had to take a sapling from here back again to India and plant it again. So that's the most famous religious site in Sri Lanka. These are some sculptures. You can see the guard stone, how beautiful it is. The moonstone. This was the remnants of a huge palace. It's called the brazen or the bronze roof palace, going back to about the 2nd century BC. But of course, these are all reconstructions since then, and it's nowhere near the 9 stories that history indicates that that's how big it was. This particular pose of the Buddha is the most popular, most common in all the statues that you'll find, or if you buy in the shops relics of the Buddha statues, you'll find this particular pose. And it is the Dhyana Mudra, the meditation pose. Here's another one, stupa. Again, all these stupas are stories which I won't go into now because of lack of time. What do you want to carry on, please?
So we went into a safari, and you see how much our jeep was bouncing around, and my watch made me think that I walked 12,000 steps that day. It was just, bumping around all over. Saw some deer. And saw a lot of monkeys doing even that. Film me because it was interesting watching how they were going after each other and our food. When sometimes I have a photo of how to be careful because snatched. Last time when I went to Sri Lanka, we went to Lanka National Park. And we stayed in the jungle itself. Some of the birds that we saw were over there in Sri Lanka. A lot of wildlife. And one of the seaside hotels that we lived in was called Malu Restaurant. Malu again is fish. And our cottages looked like the ones on the right side. We really enjoyed eating soft shell crab. Every day we used to say, we're not going to eat any more. But then we used to get tempted and we kept eating soft shell crab curry. So it's made in coconut milk. We don't eat just steamed crab. We visited a spice garden, and here are some of the spices that we saw. Turmeric, vanilla, and cloves. Right now I'm chewing cloves. It's a good mouth freshener and antibacterial spice. It has reservoirs in lakes. They had released more of the dams. So this is the outer spill.
Here, outer spill. So there's a maximum amount. Yeah. Yeah, it reached the maximum capacity. Then, very good. Over here.
Sakwala Chakraya is a stargate, a portal to other parts of the universe. According to Sri Lankan ethics, this stargate allowed gods to travel between Earth and distant cosmic destinations. Many people believe that the carving holds a secret code that, when activated, could open the stargate. Some tantric Buddhist monks still meditate in front of the carving, hoping to unlock its potential. Although this theory is dismissed by mainstream science, paranormal researcher Praveen Mohan added to the mystery in 2019 when he detected unusual energy emissions from the carving using an EMF detector. Further investigations of Anuradhapura reveal that its ancient builders possessed remarkable astronomical knowledge. A study in 1996 by researcher Mihindukula Surya, Susantha Fernando, found that 3 of the city's main stupas were aligned with 3 stars in the Orion constellation. This astronomical precision extended beyond the stupas. Archaeologists discovered that Ranmasu Uyana, the park where Sakwala Chakraya sits, served as an astronomical calendar. Stone structures in the park were designed to track the positions of the sun and stars, marking the solar year and predicting important astronomical events. The question remains, how did Anuradhapura's ancient builders acquire such advanced knowledge? Their expertise wasn't limited to astronomy. The Anuradhapura region is also famous for its engineering marvels, including an advanced hydraulic system that provided water for agriculture, drinking, and royal gardens. This system, consisting of interconnected reservoirs, canals, and modern-style valve pits, is still considered a model for modern water management. With Sri Lanka facing the effects of climate change, researchers are looking to this ancient hydraulic system for solutions to current water management issues. During the empire's prominence from 377 BCE to 1017 CE, Anuradhapura became a hub of world knowledge, attracting scholars from as far as China and Kashmir. Visitors came to study texts and receive guidance from sages on subjects like science, engineering, agriculture, and philosophy. Interestingly, archaeological evidence suggests that a thriving settlement existed in Anuradhapura centuries before the empire officially began. This raises questions about the origins of this advanced civilization and how it acquired such profound knowledge. One possible clue lies in the great South Asian epic, the Ramayana. Composed between the 8th century BCE and the 3rd century CE, it tells the story of the Indian prince Rama and his battle with the evil king Ravana of Lanka. While Ravana is portrayed as the antagonist in the Ramayana, Sri Lankan sources view him differently, as an extraordinary leader of an advanced civilization. Ravana was said to be a scholar, inventor, and legendary scientist who wrote about medicine and astrology. According to legend, he possessed advanced technologies, including the Pushpaka Vimana, a flying machine described as a chariot resembling a bright cloud in the sky. Ravana's reign is said to have been one of great prosperity, with tales of even the poorest households eating from golden pots. For Sri Lankans, Ravana is not a mythical figure, but a real king who ruled thousands of years ago, around 7,000 years before the present day, according to the Ramayana. This raises the question, how could Ravana have had access to advanced technologies like flying machines, cures for diseases, and astronomical knowledge far ahead of his time? Some believe that the answers to these questions can be found at the incredible archaeological sites around Anuradhapura. One of the most famous of these is Sigiriya, a fortress built atop a 600-foot column of rock, located about 45 miles from Anuradhapura. Sigiriya was a marvel of ancient engineering, complete with a palace, landscaped gardens, and a massive pool. Archaeologists believe the fortress was in use at least 1,500 years ago, but the scale of the construction still baffles researchers. The builders of Sigiriya are said to have moved over 3 million bricks to the top of the rock, which seems impossible without modern technology. Additionally, the 90-foot-long water tank atop the rock was carved out of solid granite, and despite droughts or heavy rains, it never dries up or overflows. This engineering feat has baffled scientists, leading some to speculate about how the ancient builders could have achieved such precision with primitive tools. According to ancient Sri Lankan sources, Sigiriya was built by the gods as an impregnable fortress for King Ravana. In 1907, archaeologists discovered a massive picture gallery of paintings in the caves around Sigiriya. These paintings depicted figures emerging from clouds and carrying various objects, sparking theories that they might represent the gods or perhaps extraterrestrial visitors who helped Ravana build his fortress. The story of Sakwala Chakraya comes into play again when considering these legends. Some believe that the Stargate referenced in local myths was not just depicted in the carving, but was actually constructed at Sigiriya, allowing Ravana's visitors from the sky to travel to and from Earth. If these gods were extraterrestrial visitors, it might explain Ravana's advanced knowledge and technological capabilities, including the Pushpaka Vimana flying machine. About 60 miles from Sigiriya lies another intriguing site, Danigala Circular Rock, known to locals as Alien Mountain due to frequent UFO sightings. According to legend, Danigala was the site of Ravana's aviation headquarters, where he landed and launched his flying machines. Locals believe that the knowledge of flight Ravana possessed came from the visitors from the sky, and that Danigala served as a landing pad for their crafts. In modern times, hundreds of UFO sightings have been reported at Danigala, adding to its mystique. As research continues, the mystery surrounding Anuradhapura, Sigiriya, and Sakwala Chakraya deepens.
Greeting, or it says hello or goodbye. And Bhoma Istuti means thank you very much. And here are some of the reasons why we think you should visit Sri Lanka. It's a small tropical island with great beaches, and hill country. It has a lot of rich culture and religious diversity. Although a small island, it has 8 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, lots of unique flora and fauna, unique cuisine. Cities are clean, and hospitality is one of the finest, and it's one of the great destination wedding sites now. Okay, with that, I finish our presentation.